A few people come up to me and they say, hey, we just want you to know you're not welcome here. None of these people want you here. None of these people like you. We're asking you to leave. We want you to go away.
Wait, don't. They actively told you that, like, some people just came up and said that you're not welcome here.
After they said that, I said this is a public area.
I watched Hasan.
This lady really doesn't like me. She's telling everybody to be careful. I'm a Zionist.
He's using you to cut agitprop. Don't let him. No, he literally.
The people that spoke with me are brave, and I respect them. I'm happy that they wanted to. If you excessively bully, I will ban you. Yeah, these are just like ordinary kids at a college campus. I'm not expecting them to be the most politically informed people in the world or super knowledgeable on anything. I just was asking general questions. I told them as much. Yeah. So at the University of Texas in Austin, on Wednesday, there had been escalating protests throughout the week, and then on Wednesday, I think they started arresting protesters. Now, I'm going to be honest, I haven't dug deeply into the arrests, but the protesters say that a lot of them were arrested for no reason, that the cops just started arresting people even though they were in a public area and being relatively calm. And apparently all the charges got dropped as well, for whatever that's worth. I don't know if that necessarily means they were being innocent or not doing anything rowdy or whatever, but yeah. But people were really mad at Texas over this. When I went on Saturday, Sunday? What's today? Today's Sunday. So I went on Friday. Yesterday? No, I went yesterday. One of my days. Yeah, I went yesterday. Is that possible I did all of this in 24 hours ago? Yeah, it was 24 hours ago. Yeah. So I decided to go to the South Mall of UT and see who was there, because I saw on the UT subreddit that people were still gathering there. So I decided to show up and see if anybody wanted to talk. And yeah, I stood around for a little bit. I didn't really know if I should just start approaching people, but yeah, eventually I walked up and started chatting, and here we go. The first person that I went up to, basically, so I stood around talking for a little bit. No, not talking. I stood around watching for a little bit, listening to people talk, and then I think this guy, he approached me, or I might have approached him. But we started chatting a little bit, and I was like, hey, are you interested in having a conversation about what you guys are doing here? What's going on? I think I told everybody immediately, hey, just so you know, I'm Dusty on YouTube. I'm pretty pro-Israel, so I'm giving you that heads up so you don't think I'm trying to f you or anything like that. Yeah, what camera did you use? It's just my iPhone 15. Okay, sorry. All right. Okay, so I gave you the background on that, and here we go. Good luck. I don't know how the audio is going to work here. I just recorded from my phone, so good luck.
Yes.
Okay. You want to introduce yourself as comfortable as you are introducing yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, my name is Rand. And
okay, it's pretty hearable. Audible.
And I am majoring in sustainability studies after switching from philosophy.
Okay. So I noticed that there's you guys have been doing protests here. Obviously, a lot of them got cleaned out yesterday after there were some arrests, and then people were released.
Well, so I should say that what was planned was to be a sit-in, not unlike what has been going on across the country on university campuses.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be an educational event where people could come and learn about Palestinian culture, the plight of the Palestinian people, and just kind of voice their concerns for what has been called, and what I would call, a ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people. Especially considering, one, UT has the second largest endowment out of any university in the country, I believe. At least public university is something like that. I did the math, and without accounting for faculty and staff and all the other expenditures, could you guess what UT's endowment is? Per capita, per undergraduate student, not graduate, not faculty and staff.
Per undergrad?
Per undergrad.
I'm only going to guess a disgustingly high number because I've seen school budgets before. I don't know, $50,000, $60,000? What is it?
Double that.
Okay, $100,000? Yeah.
Oh, actually, no. It's 20 times that then. It's $1 million.
Oh, $1 million per undergrad. Okay, yeah, then I'm way off. Yeah, okay.
Not an unsubstantial amount of that goes to, weapons research, defense research, and funding the state of Israel in their ongoing genocide. And just a couple weeks ago, a month ago or something, the Israel Block Party was hosted right outside of McCollum's business building on the other side of Speedway, right outside Gregory Gym. And last year I was there protesting across Speedway outside of the McCollum's building. And I go there, I find out early in the day that it's the Israel Bloc Party is that day, and somebody in my communication and public opinion class said, yeah, there are going to be IDF soldiers that you can go talk to. So I was like, oh wow, I have to go see what the counter protest is like. And where the counter protest was last year, they had like 10 cops outside of Macom's business building, and then like a bunch of other, DPS officers all over the place.
Okay.
And they said that the cops that I talked to said that some of them were like disguising themselves amongst the crowd as well, to keep the Israeli students, the Israeli supportive students safe.
Sure.
Anybody who was like to maintain a safe environment for that event.
Okay.
And I think the juxtaposition between that and what has occurred on our campus on the 24th, on Wednesday, it's striking. It's stark. I had a dream last night that I was getting tased by a police officer.
Jesus.
You,
when you look at these
Okay.
types of events and you look
What was the initial question I asked for this? Hold on.
Okay. You want to introduce yourself as like comfortable?
and I am majoring in sustainability studies after switching from philosophy.
Okay. So I noticed that there's like you guys have been doing protests here. Obviously, a lot of them got cleaned out yesterday after there was some arrests, and then people were released.
Well, so I should say that what was planned was to be a sit-in, not unlike what has been going on across the country on university campuses.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be an educational event.
Oh, wait, I don't even think I asked a question yet.
Where, people could come and learn about Palestinian culture, the plight of the Palestinian people, and just kind of voice their concerns for,
Okay, sorry. Okay. So I didn't actually ask a formal question. Were we 3 minutes in?
Israeli students. The Israeli supportive.
Okay.
The 24th on Wednesday. It's striking. It's stark. I had a dream last night that I was getting tased by a police officer.
Jesus.
Yeah.
When you look at these types of events,
Okay, hold on. Just real quick. No, I'm not 1.5 times speeding. My God, have some patience. I'm not 1.5 times speeding. I can't do anything about the wind. We're not going to play something else. Shut the up. Holy shit. Oh my God.
and you're looking at the, I guess like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict right now, what is, I guess when you think about the conflict right now, why do you think it's happening? I guess like what's in your opinion?
That's a really good question.
Okay, so I think this first real question is I'm still, this is the first guy I've interviewed, so I'm not even sure what I'm asking it. So like, why do you think the conflict is happening is an interesting one, right? So what do you think is causing it? Okay.
History didn't start on October 7th.
We got that, the good thing, yeah.
And it certainly didn't start in 1949. And in my understanding, I'm not religious at all.
Sure.
And I think that pointing to a religious text as justification for like property rights almost is dangerous, especially in this like modern or postmodern world that we live in, whatever you want to call it, the present day. I think that, I mean, obviously, it's been called a complicated issue, but I don't think it really is all that complicated. I think that there is, you talked about earlier before we started recording, like what would a two-state solution look like, and there have been deals negotiated along those lines, to my understanding, and all of them have fallen through. But in reality, what has occurred since since the end of British Mandate Palestine has been a just worsening and worsening and worsening for the Palestinian people on their ancestral land, really. At least, like I would classify, like if you have 10 generations there, you've got like at least 1,000 years. Yeah, I think you can call that ancestral land. You know what I mean?
Would it matter if like Jewish people had lived there prior to Palestinian people?
It absolutely is important, and I know that I forget the name of the temple, but it's the most holy site in all of Judaism, and it's the third holiest site in the Islamic tradition. So
the Temple Mountain and the Al-Aqsa Mosque and everything,
yeah,
right? The
yeah,
Rock
yeah.
of the Dome, I think, yeah. Do you think that, so I'm curious for people that advocate for the one-state solution. Do you think that...
So it's interesting that, so as I'm speaking, also I want to be clear, there's a lot of things going on. One, this person's young. Two, I don't expect everybody to be like a fucking scholar on all of these issues, which is fair, right? But it's interesting to hear in real time, like the talking points. In his first, like kind of introduction, we got the the schools give this much endowment for people, and it's being used on weapons research and the military-industrial complex. And it's weird how cops always protect the good guys, or I'm sorry, the cops are protecting the bad guys whenever the good guys. We got those 3 talking points, and now we've got the history didn't start on October 7th or 1949. I think he meant 48. That's okay. We've got the Jews are using religious text as justification for property rights, which is not really what's happening at all. We've got that like ever since the British Mandate ended, it's been getting worse for Palestinian people, which I don't know if those 2 things. It's not a very like meaningful statement. The 10th generations is 1,000 years. I don't know how long do people consider a generation to be? What is a generation? Would you say like 30 years, or what is it like in layman's terms? People say a generation. I would imagine like anywhere from 20 to 30 or 20 to 40 years maybe. I like that it's like, well, what about if, and he brings up that like the Palestinians, if they've lived here for so long, maybe it's their land. It's like, okay, because he keeps calling it the Palestinian ancestral homeland. Well, what about the Jews that live there? Like the turn of the zeros, whatever you call around that time, right? Like
one-state solution. Do you think that, what would your feelings, I guess, be if a one-state solution happened and then Jewish people were an ethnic minority in that country? Do you think they would fare well, or?
An ethnic minority in a one-state Israel/Palestine. What would it even be called? What would it be called? Would it be called
So here's my first like pretty challenging question, right? Is like, what would a one state look like? How would it? Yeah.
Israel, or would it be called
I
Palestine?
think most people probably want it to be called Palestine, but we can assume whatever the country's called, though.
Sure. I think that if you have a single state that doesn't have second-class citizenry, that doesn't have a second-class citizenship in place, I suppose, which, I mean, let's call it what it is. It's an apartheid.
We've got the apartheid talking point
regime that is fueling an ongoing genocide.
with the genocide comment.
The conditions in the West Bank are horrible, especially given, the radicalized settler violence.
I was curious if it was a
Gaza is worse. Gaza is so much worse. Gaza basically doesn't even exist anymore. Sure. I hear that Rafah is. I was watching the news with my parents last night.
Hey, Destiny, I want to say I used to believe the clips of you I saw and people, the clips of you I saw and believe that people that talk down on you, watching you a lot recently, I realized I was stupid and believe them. I'm sorry, homie, you goated. Thanks, Ivan.
Right. And I was like, where is Rafah? And settler violence.
I was curious if it was a
Gaza is worse. Gaza is so much worse. Gaza basically doesn't even exist anymore. Sure. I hear that Rafah is. I was watching the news with my parents last night, and I was like, where is Rafah? And finally I looked it up on the map. It's wow. So it's right at the border with Egypt. Interesting. Weird.
I don't know what that is referring to, like what talking point or prop. I don't want to say propaganda. That's me, but like, what does he mean by that? Like, oh, interesting. Like, I don't. But okay.
I think a one-state solution, to answer your question as succinctly as I possibly can. I think that it would be a lot better of a situation for everybody involved. And I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of people who have a lot of opinions on this topic. And that is maybe but from my personal opinion, from my standpoint as a student at the University of Texas who witnessed the police violence on Wednesday, I think a one-state solution with no second-class citizenship, with no apartheid, is what needs to happen.
So I'm representing the Jewish argument on this.
So then I try to re-engage because he didn't really answer the question at all. Like, how would you do the one-state solution? This is a very fundamental question too. Like, what would the one-state solution look like? What if Jews start getting like prosecuted in the one-state solution? Would we expect that to happen? So I think I re-engage.
This side is they would say, well, what would happen if we did a one-state solution and now they're minorities and they start getting like terrorized?
They start getting terrorized. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a real concern. It is a real concern because that's essentially what happened in the beginning, right? But you have, I think, to take anything to act as though history began on the date following the Nakba, right? Like when the Nakba failed, or the catastrophe, when it was over, I guess. Then history begins. And now it's like we can talk about the conditions and
We got the history's beginning comment again, yeah.
Palestinians resist and they fight back, and you think, oh my God, how is this possible? How could this happen? Why don't we have world peace? Why don't we have peace in the Middle East? The United States needs to get involved. The United States needs to continue to arm Israel to be able to defend itself. And it's like, well, I mean, the creation of the nation state of Israel, the creation of the state of Israel, has been violent from the beginning.
Lots of wind.
I'm so curious, though. I'll ask one more time. I'm just curious because the biggest
And now,
So I re-engage because I still haven't really gotten an answer to this. Because like, what would happen in a one state? What do we think would happen? What if Jews start getting killed? Like,
I'm so curious, though. I'll ask one more time.
would it be worth asking them to define through some of their talking points to get them to think about what they're saying, or would that come off as combative? Well, so like there's a hold on. Sorry. Okay. One thing that as I talk to somebody, I can probably tell where the limits of their knowledge are, and if I start asking questions in that direction, then the conversation will get really uncomfortable because it's going to be obvious that it's going to feel like I'm probing for gotchas. So like when he's talking about like the Nakba and like when it ended or what it even was, I don't think he technically knows. I don't think he has like a solid foundation for the dates and everything. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh really? What was the Nakba? How many people got expelled? What did that look like? Because if I start like pushing really hard, then it's going to become like a knowledge test quiz, and it's going to get uncomfortable. So I try to stay away from that. I'm not trying to like really challenge any fundamental assumptions or beliefs, at least not yet. I'm just like I'm just curious what people here are thinking. Really, maybe in future combos I would do this, but I'm not sure how to do it in a way that's not very combative or very aggressive. Yeah.
I'm just curious because the biggest
and
concern
now the violence is structural. It's not. I mean, obviously there is a genocide going on as well, but it's structural violence too.
Yeah, but one more time, I guess, because I think the scary part about that answer is the Jewish people probably feel like if one state solution happened, and then they started to get genocided or killed or destroyed, that essentially there would be no, basically, recourse for them other than to have a violent revolution and create another state of Israel again. It feels like there'd be no safeguards for that process.
So let's not mince words. The United States is undoubtedly still the hegemon on the world stage. And I think that you hear Ben Shapiro figures talking about how like, wow, it was miraculous that Israel was able to take the Golan Heights back in the 70s or whatever it was. And it's like, well, is it miraculous? Like I think I know where they got their weapons from.
Like this is all like not like now we're doing the Israel has always been propped up and funded by the West. And we're not talking about, well, who did they get their weapons from in the Muslim states, or like how many of them were there?
The United States, our economy has been built on international arms dealing ever since.
The U.S. economy has been built on international arms dealing. In what situations would you say that you would push hard like that and challenge someone's knowledge? Does it depend on the topic? I don't know. Not for these interviews, not at all. I didn't go in here with this intention at all.
World War II, probably in a sense World War I, although my knowledge of history is so fuzzy.
I don't understand. Does he not understand your question, or is he just avoiding because he has absolutely nothing to say to respond? I think that it's what I guess is going on is you kind of have a bunch of like slogans and talking points that are all kind of like self-referential or all reinforce each other. This mean the same thing. And then when you're asked a question, you kind of like bounce between the most relevant ones, basically. I think that's kind of what's happening. And I don't think he's unique for this, by the way. I think a lot of people at these protests probably do this. Probably on the pro-Zionist side as well. I'm sure it's possible that a lot of people, depending on your background, maybe actually. The pro-Zionist side for these protests actually might be a bit more informed, but just because if you're Jewish, you might have like more of a background on the history of your country. Maybe. But they also might be retarded too. I don't know, actually. But so that maybe in this it would be a little different, but I'm not sure.
Farther back it goes, right? Obviously, and again, like it's impossible to talk about this without talking about the Holocaust. It's impossible to talk about any of these.
The Holocaust comes up.
Any element of this conflict without talking about, with any element of this ongoing genocide currently, without talking about that genocide. But I think that in the mind of the Israeli state, if you want to conceptualize like a country as though it has like as though it's an organism. It feels very much, especially today, and looking back on interviews that I would watch, like in high school even, the mentality is that two wrongs have made a right. You know? Okay. The original expulsion of the Jews from their homeland by the Romans, like way back in the day, and the diaspora that occurred, and you've got pogroms, and you've got a history that is steeped in anti-Semitism. Beyond anti-Semitic rhetoric, you've got a history that is absolutely involved with the persecution of the Jewish people. And that is undeniable. So there's that first wrong. And then you've got the second wrong.
Oh, and I will say something else. This guy blew my fucking mind with this. I can't believe I'd never considered this before. Me. Hold on, I'm just gonna read a really quick email I got. I believe that this is 100% true, and I just never thought about it before. Oh, it's not. It's this. Okay. Good morning, Stephen. I hope you're well. I was listening to your conversation with Richard Lewis on the Bridges podcast this morning, and you were discussing the left shifting from being vehemently intolerant of anti-Semitism following Charlottesville and the dog whistling OK symbol to where we are now with the Israeli-Palestinian discourse. When reflecting on this, I had a small epiphany that you might find valuable. While my memory is far from perfect, I do not remember the left rigorously defending Jewish people during the rise of the alt-right, particularly following Charlottesville. Rather, most prominent leftists seem to be denouncing white supremacy, pointing to anti-Semitism as a signifier of ideological alignment with Nazis. Today, with the contentious Israeli-Palestinian conflict leading many leftists to toe the line of anti-Semitism rhetoric, while others will gladly cross the line, the same leftists will simply group the Zionist Jews in with colonialist, racist, white supremacy-touting Nazis. TLDR, my thesis that the left was never vehemently against anti-Semitism, but against white supremacy. Now that pro-Israel Jews are no longer a signifying tool, but a perceived enemy of leftist identitarian ideology, they are given the same labels as alt-right neo-Nazis. Best regards, blah, blah, blah. I didn't really think about that before, but I think it's probably true. The huge opposition to Nazis and far-right people in U.S. history, I say history, but like 5 or 10 years ago, I think did have way more to do with the ideas of white supremacy rather than actual anti-Semitism. I think anti-Semitism just became like a dog whistle for like white supremacy, essentially, which is something I never really thought about before, but I think that actually is true.
Of the Holocaust. And that's, I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, the worst wrong that has ever been committed by human history, by human beings. And so their right is to kick out the Palestinians, kick out the Arabs. And I think it's also very steeped in this Orientalist conception that we have of the world in the West. I had learned about that from a friend that like Oriental is a bad word or whatever, from a Canadian Chinese friend of mine growing up, and she always talked about how she was Chinese first, and whatever. That's getting into a whole different.
I think we used to call it the Orient, like in the East, but for a while it was kind of a slur to call somebody Oriental. But I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
I don't know if this is only a U.S. thing, but I think Oriental in the U.S. used to be considered like you would just call any Asian person Oriental, and then I think that was kind of like a slur, like in the 90s or 2000s. I don't know if it's still a slur. I just don't think you say it anymore. It's just kind of weird if somebody says it. Like I don't think calling somebody colored. I don't even know if I would consider that a slur today. I think people just look at you really weird. Like, what do you mean colored? Or like if you call somebody Oriental, what do you mean Oriental? Like it's just such a fallen out of use term.
Is like in the United States in particular, because of our place as the world hegemon.
Yeah.
We have, I mean, I won't say always been, but like, as long as I've been alive, which is a short amount of time, we've been a very, very, very xenophobic nation.
Okay.
We've been a very, very xenophobic place. I think the order of racism in the United States probably goes, black people, like.
I like how we're ordering the racial discrimination.
And
who do you think is less racist than us?
Less racist than us?
Oh, so this is an interesting question because I hear this a lot when people throw us under the bus. Like, oh, the United States is such a racist country. I'm like, well, who does it better? I'm curious.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. But let me get through it in just 1 second. So, black people, we are like that. Malcolm X has a great quote. You take the knife out of someone's back 6 inches. That's not healing it. You take it out, a full. You take the knife out, that's not healing it. Then you bandage it up, and that's not even healing it. You are able to, once the bandage is there, then you can like talk about forgiveness. But in America, we don't even admit that the knife is there. And that was true back then before his assassination, and that's still true today. So black people, and then probably, I mean, given the rhetoric of the Donald Trump administration and his ongoing campaign, we've got Latinx, Latino, Mexican people. And then we've got, I think probably the Arab world is really, really demonized by this history, especially post 9/11. You've got like a very, very rich history there, and this is obviously what we're talking about.
What was the original thing you asked? I don't remember. I think it was just like, how would a one-state solution work? Or I might have gotten to another question, but like obviously it's a lot of talking, yeah.
I'm not going to say that the Israel-Palestine conflict is super complicated, but like the United States' involvement in the Middle East at large is complicated. I will admit that. Yeah. And then fourth, we've got
who's less racist than us? But he didn't even want to answer that question yet. He's going on this. Yeah.
Chinese xenophobia, and that is also really, really potent here. So.
I'm just like a curious question. Do you think there's any other nation on the planet that's less xenophobic than the United States, or does like handles racism or stuff like that better than the United States does?
I mean, I think that's good whataboutism, but talking about what occurred here on the 24th.
It wouldn't excuse any U.S. action. I'm always curious if there's a standard. Like we can be the best in the world and still have room for growth.
I don't think the United States is like the most racist place.
Something that I would want to lean on future interviews on, can we really not give us any credit at all? Do we not get any credit for all the different races of people we got here and the integration of all the different people? Or
But I think it's definitely still got institutional racism happening. East, like Austin, for example. You take the 1920s Klan, which redlined the entire city. And you go east of I-35. My grandparents live over there. And you can see it. You can feel it. It's instantaneous. It's immediate.
Okay.
I've been very much controlling the conversation. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Thank you for letting me talk.
Yeah, you're good. I'm curious if somebody was looking at this protest and they were watching it. There was like one message.
Oh, I try to ask everybody this question at the end.
Like one big thing you wanted somebody to take away, whether it was domestically in Texas and Austin, or whether it was internationally, or whether it was Biden himself. Like, what's like a big takeaway message you feel like you want people to get from like observing a sit-in or protest or whatever's been going on here?
Love. Love for your fellow human being. And love for your
I thought it was
human being. For Jay Hartzell to resign as president of our university because this was egregious and disdainful what happened. And divestment of the University of Texas with our $1 million per undergraduate student.
and he wants to divest BDS, I think, right? Boycotts,
some of which goes
divestment
to
sanction or something?
Disclose and divest from the Israeli state.
Okay. Thanks. I appreciate the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Desmond.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so I talked to him. Let me find the next video. I talked to him. Seemed like it went okay. If you see me looking around a lot, I'm sorry. I'm always paranoid when I'm in public of people who are like behind me or to my side. If I'm gonna get killed, I want to be looking at the person when they kill me, and I get really weird when people are kind of like standing behind me or standing next to me. So if my eyes are darting, it's just because I'm like keeping tabs on people that are around me. Especially when I can't see people's hands, it makes me really nervous. So when people either walk up to me with their hands in their pocket, or people are standing behind me with their hands in like their coat or whatever, I always am like looking around. Yeah. But okay, so I talked to him, and then I went back and I started looking for anybody else that would try to talk. So I think I walked up to a group of people, and I found I think this guy, I think he recognized me. It seemed like he did. And so I pulled this guy out next to chat.
Recording?
Yeah, hang on.
Okay. You can introduce yourself with as much or as little information as you want. So student at UT or random human being or whatever.
Okay, yeah. I guess I'm here. I'm around UT. I study for a living right now. I love studying. And politics, I enjoy that. I'm not sure if I'm going to make a living out of that, but I really like to be an academic in the future.
Cool. Do you say your major?
I'm studying Japanese and math.
Okay, cool. That's not math.
I don't understand the implication of the $1 million per student endowment. Is the idea that they're somehow tied to $1 million of investment? No, just that the university gets a lot of state money, so they should not be supporting Israel or the military-industrial complex, I guess, basically, yeah.
In the future.
Cool. Do you say your major?
I'm studying Japanese and math.
Okay, cool. That's not
Japanese and math.
And Japanese. Wait,
Yeah.
Oh, I asked him, these are like random personal. I was just curious. That was a really odd combination of things.
Study translation and teach Japan and all that it represents.
Oh, cool.
And I just think I've come to the conclusion to understand like the postmodern condition, Japan and its cultural forms in this. If you look at the internet, you look at Discord, everything's anime. You want to know how that works, you have to know how anime works, you have to know how manga works, you know where that comes from. You know, there's a lot of cultural expressions that are worth studying to really take a crack at what culture is now.
Sure. Okay, cool. Okay, so obviously in Austin, you guys have had some, you were doing protests / sit-ins, and then yesterday that you were arrested.
Jesus.
Right?
That was on Wednesday.
That was on Wednesday, a few days
Yeah.
ago. Okay. I know that is it the president of the school? What's her name?
Jay Hartzell?
Yeah.
His name. I don't know anything about this fucking bullshit.
Sorry, she's fine.
It's Jay.
Okay, whatever. So we can all be whatever. Cut that out. I'm just kidding. Okay. Your president makes statements. A lot of you guys are calling for his resignation.
Yeah, do you want to see the mail that he sent the entirety of UT?
I think I saw it on Twitter this morning.
Yeah, pretty much, like, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an expert, but as far as I understand, he, the head of the police force employed a law that said that we were on, I could take the specifics right now, but a speed on a highway or a walkway, and we were impeding that, and that was tantamount to a felony. This is, at least in terms of like the passive, it's not a walkway by exaggeration. This is like a social.
Nice win. Is this off Congress? This is in the South Mall of University of Texas.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Okay.
So my
Yes.
the point being that it was so egregious that he could not even find a rational justification in the operating system of the guys in power to get them protesting and making noise about something that they find to be critical to make part of the culture and zeitgeist to get us out of here.
Okay.
And like the way in which that was brought about, the police that came here, the state troopers, they
Jesus. This might be the windiest interview,
maybe
so.
I'm making a sort of like
He's right now. He's just talking through all of the. Arrest stuff that basically happened. Nothing too dramatic happens in this interview, I don't think. But I have to play these full interviews, and you'll know why at the end of this one. Okay.
maybe I'm name calling here, but they're going here with horses and like literally shitting on the entirety of this plaza. Yeah, it was making more of a stink, no pun intended, than the people who were eating from that perspective alone.
What do you think when you're looking at the situation that's happening today in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine?
Sure.
What do you think the root cause is? Why do you think it's happening?
Say that again. What do you think?
Like the root cause is? Like, why do you think there's so much conflict between Israelis and Palestinians?
Okay, so like I know, so I get my dosage of politics based on. I'm not sure if you've spoken to Loner Box before.
Yes.
Loner box.
Okay, so I'm somewhat informed in terms of the recent ongoings of the last century. So
How did you approach these students? Did they come to you, or did anyone invite them? It doesn't seem like these are hardcore ideologically inclined. They're just all out here. There's like a sit-in going in this direction, and I'm just kind of like walking up and asking if there's anybody who wants to chat, basically. Yeah.
based on like the information I got from him, and like, obviously some skimming of the wiki and whatever information I get from people around me who are interested on the matter. But I mean,
I'm not necessarily interested in like the historical
Causes.
like the
You're
most
talking about
accurate. I just mean, what's like your feeling like right now? Like, what is the big
okay,
issue?
so I think the occupation and the apartheid state, as ruled by many NGOs, I think that's what they say, organized NGOs, or that have looked at the situation in Israel and specifically the West Bank.
Were they familiar with you beforehand? This guy recognized me a little bit, yeah. He was in a group of 3 people, and I asked any of them if they wanted to chat because they had the keffeya things on. 2 of them said absolutely not, and he was like, yeah, sure, we'll chat, because he did recognize me, yeah.
And said, no, you guys are employing an apartheid state, and it's very analogous to that of what was going on in South Africa during its, the Afrikaner apartheid. So I look at that and say, we can construct a social formation there that doesn't result in as much damage to the parties in question, especially the one that is sort of like getting an exponential amount of the force with respect to the other side.
One of the things when we were talking a little bit off camera before I asked if you wanted to come and chat, you mentioned like a one-state solution being a potential solution for the current problems.
Right.
So obviously,
I'm not an expert though.
Yeah, that's fine. But I'm curious, on the Jewish side, the part that they always argue, the scary part for them is, well, if we create another Arab state where we're a minority and then we start getting killed, like what is the protections for them at that point?
I get that, but I think that's a posteriori justification, because that's sort of what was going on. That's sort of what's going on in Gaza and the West Bank. Like I'm sure you've learned, of course, of the shrinking of the map with respect to what what's considered Palestine and the proportions of its population with respect to Israelis. I would say like that is a valid concern, but is that not what you're doing right now with these people?
Well, one thing I'd be really curious to ask for future protests when these people are out is and I don't think I get a decent answer from any of these people. I don't necessarily blame them, but what would happen if a one-state solution happened? What are the chances that another genocide occurs, and what would you do about it? Like, if you were Jewish, would you feel like anything would be done about it? I need to pay this one. I'll have this for my debate on the first.
I think the Jewish argument would be that it would be worse, that it would be like a mass killing.
I almost fucked up. I said it would be an actual genocide, but I caught myself really quick. Geez, yeah.
Now with these people?
Well, I think the Jewish argument would be that it would be worse, that it would be like a mass killing of hundreds of thousands of Jewish people. Or
you think the UN? I'm not trying to be contentious. You think the UN would endorse or allow it to happen?
So I think the scary thing for the Jewish people would be, it seems like they did allow it to happen in Yemen, they did allow it to happen in Syria.
Well, it's happened not just to the Jewish people there. Like, I'm not saying...
No, that wasn't Jewish people, it was Arabs. Yeah, all those places. And up in Syria, there are hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, Yemen is more of a
and then Yemen
Sunni
also.
versus Shia issue. I'm basing myself, again, I'm throwing content creators with politics.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that it seems like there's a lot of turmoil.
It is interesting. One thing I think you should consider is... I'm not trying to make fun of anybody because everybody probably does this, okay? But these people have enough conviction about this particular thing that they're willing to go to protest and get arrested for it, right? Which I would say is a decent level of conviction. But they don't have that much background information on it or know that much at all about it, which is also interesting. So you've got very high levels of conviction with people that are willing to at least get I'd say performatively arrested, because none of these people are going to commit felonies and go to jail for years or anything, or prison for years or anything. But they're at least willing to get arrested and be at these protests and these things without having any really solid background information on it at all. Which is, again, I'm sure a lot of protests do stuff like this, but interesting to think about.
In the region where lots and lots of people have been killed. So the idea that the Jewish people there feel like the UN would protect them, since the UN didn't seem to protect anybody else in the region. I don't know.
I mean, no, look.
When you say these protests are more of a social event rather than a political statement, yes, I think all of it is. When I talk about the constellation, I'm mainly referring to social groups that have these shared beliefs. And if you're admitted into the social group, then you have a high level of conviction for everything that's part of that social group's belief system. You have to, even if you don't necessarily know where any of the beliefs came from.
There are valid concerns there, but I have to look at things from a pragmatic perspective. I think you would agree with that as well. In that, there might be edge cases and things, ways in which that might deteriorate rapidly, but I don't think that justifies the current set of rules. And I think it's sort of how the old saying about democracy being the best worst system, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Well, in a similar way, I don't think we can have an operating also with really a right-wing USA, right? Government of Netanyahu, Ben Gvir, Ben Smotrich, having those coordinated government that's operating as a functional de facto ethno state, and opposing these the way in which they practiced it and prevented Palestinians from certain highways. There's car numbers where you can't go on certain highways, and this is very much dictated by your citizenship.
He's talking about differences in how people in the West Bank are treated right now, basically. I don't know if you can hear well or not, but
Palestine and Israel. Okay. So there's an economic gap there as well that we've been speaking of.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess those circumstances that have come about from this sort of government cannot be accepted.
Sure.
And if there was a point, a time and place for the 2-6...
Were these interviews off the cuff because of the sit-ins, or did you have a plan to go on campus? No, these were just off the cuff. I haven't even showered today. That's why my hair is so messy and shit. I checked the subreddit, the UT subreddit. It's is anything happening today? And I saw it was. I was like, oh, f it. So I just Ubered over here to go see if there's anything going on that I could chat with people with. Yeah.
If there was a point, a time and place for the two-state solution, I think Israel's actions in the last 2 decades have made that difficult, nigh impossible. I don't want to leave out the possibility, right?
Yeah,
You got to
of
look
course,
at things from a pragmatic perspective.
Something you
Are you
said
alone or did you
about-
bring a friend? I have a friend recording, but
for the last 2 decades, you feel like Israel has been kind of like their behavior hasn't been the best. You pointed to accurately that they do have a right-wing coalition government. They have had for a while. Why would you think over the past like 2 decades do you feel like Israel has gone like more right? Do you have any idea like why?
so this is an interesting question because everybody seems to know what the Palestinians are mad, I guess, because of apartheid, genocide, right? So I asked this question. It's a pretty particular one. So I'm mining for information a little, but I'm not going to challenge if he doesn't give a good answer. But it is interesting. Like, could you think of a conceivable reason of why would Israeli citizens have gone more right in like the last 2 decades? There's a very obvious, very easy, very good answer for this. But
They have had for a while. Why would you think over the past like 2 decades do you feel like Israel has gone like more right? Do you have any idea like why?
I mean, yeah, I would say that there's different. So like from, I think there's definitely a focus on like Netanyahu being a central element in this, in that from the beginning. And again, I might be confusing the specific elements involved, but like previous prime ministers and Netanyahu prior to him being a prime minister were really fomenting Hamas as an organization, which I mean I do not condone. I wish Hamas wasn't in power, but like we're talking about a set of conditions that have brought about Hamas when you're talking about peaceful protests being set aside, where there's massacres and there was peaceful protests by the Palestinians, and those sort of conditions have led to a situation where Hamas is in power in a region where I might be missing up the specifics, but like 40%, 50, 55% of the people are less than 15 years old, or 18.
In Gaza, yes, they're very young.
so it's interesting, right? The obvious answer is the Second Intifada, right? Obviously, the Second Intifada like super radicalized a lot of Israeli people, and threw a lot of people's desires for any sort of like peaceful resolution completely out the window. But we're not even aware of that, which is a pretty monumental event in recent Israeli history. So the idea that we don't know about that is pretty big. But again, I don't expect people to be history majors or anything like that. But
Population, I believe, of the nation taking out, right?
So like we can look at that and say, okay, they didn't vote, they didn't organize in such a way to have Hamas be in power. I agree with you.
But it's interesting. It's also interesting because I think it says something about you, not about you. I think it says something when you take a step back and you try to think like, why are people thinking this particular thing, right? Why are people upset about this thing? If you somebody in chat earlier asked a question, what advice would you give for knowing if your conviction matches your level of knowledge? I don't know. Ask yourself basic questions about like a particular thing. Do you feel like you know anything about it? Could you explain the other side? But yeah, like imagine like if a group of people are mad about something, so mad that they're protesting or going to war, or whatever. There's got to be a reason, right? And if you have no idea at all, like, well, I mean, do you think they're monsters? Like, are Jews or Palestinians just like subhuman animal dogs who just like hate for no reason because of, you know, whatever? Like, or is there like, there has to be a reason, right? You should wonder about that.
And yet, for Netanyahu and his regime, the right-wing coalition, they look at that and say that's perfect. We're making a divide between the PLO, the PLO, and Hamas. Yes, splitting up, dividing conquer, the classic strategy, and in that way they present less of an opposition, and there's less of a possibility for them to have a solution. Netanyahu.
Did you confront him about the second intifada point? It might come up like in a different interview I do, maybe, but I don't think so. Not really. No. Again, I'm not trying to be like critical, or I'm not trying to challenge people hardcore. I'm just kind of like trying to get a vibe for like where your feelings at. Yeah.
Who and his cabinet themselves have like explicitly, they've explicitly looked at the situation and say, we don't want there to be a two-state solution. There might be some, you know, signaling in that extent, but there's moments.
Even part of the Likud platform that Netanyahu is a part of, I think, is explicitly it's part of their charter.
It's interesting. Sometimes I'll help them out a little bit, but like there are stronger talking points than some of the anti-Israeli people even know. So they'll say things like, "Oh, like Netanyahu doesn't want a two-state solution," blah blah blah. I think it says between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean, the only sovereign state that will exist is Israel. That's the party. Likud is the party that Netanyahu is a part of, the right-leaning party that forms a coalition government right now. And they literally explicitly say they will never recognize in the charter like a Palestinian sovereign state. So, but people aren't even aware of like this talking point. You should know this. Easy talking point against
they have their
Netanyahu.
own from river to the sea. Only Israel will
Exactly.
be the only sovereign
Exactly.
state. So yeah.
And I mean, setting us like this is of course not including the they've made certain, especially more recently, like religious, almost like evangelical in nature.
Sure.
That's not true. The Likud Party, original party platform, 1977. The right of the Jewish people to the land of Israel, Eretz Israel. The right of the Jewish people to the land of Israel is eternal and indisputable and is linked with the right to security and peace. Therefore, Judea and Samaria, which is the West Bank essentially, will not be handed to any foreign administration. Between the sea and the Jordan, there will only be Israeli sovereignty. It's not from the charter, is the original platform in 1977. Oh, is there like a difference? I would assume that your original platform and your charter are similar. Is there? Okay, was there? My bad. Okay. Their original platform. But I'm pretty sure Netanyahu has reiterated that he wouldn't want any sovereign Palestinian state as well. But
Or the children of the dark shadow or whatever, and then the Amalek.
Yeah. Kill their cattle, kill the children, So we're talking about like, I would say openly genocidal rhetoric. We don't have to talk about the Holocaust. We don't have to make justifications. But you could look at the Rwandan genocide, if not in scale, then just certainly in rate, right? The rate at which this could be taking place. We look at the fact that they're saying this could be going on for 10 years. Okay, so you're talking about 40,000 over 6 months. In 10 years, you want nearly 500,000 people dead, half of us are not gone. I mean, I look at that and say, they have made conditions impossible for something like a two-state solution.
Okay.
And at least as I see it, I might be wrong. Maybe the experts, maybe the top of the UN could engineer a solution. But I look at that and say, there's got to be, we're left with the only rational solution for the time being. The UN comes in, and they have the best shot at making things work. Maybe you're right. Maybe there's an odds of that not working. But
I'm representing the Jewish side. I don't know. That's not necessarily my own personal opinion, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm not calling you, IDF.
I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt again,
what's up?
but I don't.
so something that is interesting. So I said I've been kind of looking in the background. So there are a few people now at this protest that have seen me, and they're running around now talking to a bunch of people. And I think I caught them saying don't talk to this guy, or he's trying to be disingenuous or something. So this guy. Oh no, wait. I'm sorry. I don't think I've heard that yet. Forget it. I just tried to preempt this guy, but I think he actually just comes into chat. My bad. Forgot I said any of that. Hello? What?
Just one thing.
Yeah.
You said you had this, your good question to the one-staters was, there's going to be a genocide against the Jews, right? More or less.
Or I would just like to hear them engage with that. I'm curious what they would think.
I suggest a better question.
Sure.
How do people feel about the fact that one-state solution for two people is the least popular final settlement for both groups, including Palestinians? As in, you can ask Palestinians, how do you feel about two states or one state with equality?
Equal rights? Yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I know. That's another question I asked them too, yeah.
Because obviously the genocide thing, if you're talking to a leftist especially, is it's much easier for them to just write that off, because to them, instinctively, as soon as you end the oppression, then all the hatred will stop, right? That's kind of how they address that in their heads.
Maybe, but that's a pretty that's a pretty wild line to take. I would like to hear them say that. I haven't heard anybody say that yet, but if they did, then maybe I would change my approach or something, but yeah.
Okay. Or I guess the other thing they say is that you just sound they'll say you sound like whatever, this didn't happen in South Africa, or I don't know. Even though it did happen kind of in Zimbabwe. But you've got the polls for that, right? With the whole,
yeah, I've seen it,
Palestinians, yeah. Okay.
Two state, one state with equal rights, one state with a subjugated people, basically, yeah.
Yeah, because I think especially on left-wing terms, that's the Palestinians themselves don't really want it. So
yeah.
it's
I think another interesting question is asking people, so you said you're anti-Zionist, not anti-Semitic, right? And everybody will say yes, of course. But then I'm curious, sometimes I feel like people think that the support for Israel is a very minority position for Jewish people. But if you were to tell a person like that, hey, if I told you that 90% of Jews support the existence of Israel, which I think it's around that, it's 90% or more, how do you feel about that? Because it gets pretty hard to separate out the anti-Semitism from the anti-Zionism at that point, or how do you feel about those people? But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, if you look at the polling, the questions are always very it's a thriving Jewish state is essential to my Jewish identity, or it's essential for the long-term future. And if you go to any country like France, Canada, and Russia, it's always 60, 70, 80%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've noticed that as well. I've noticed that there are a few far left streamers. I've seen a couple of, I won't name names, but I've seen a couple of them going through Twitter replies and things like that. Mm-hmm. They actually do think that most Jews oppose Zionism, in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's just an unknown thing mostly. Anyway, all right. Bye.
Bye. You're ignoring the fact that they are claiming it's a genocide. If you don't at least try to show that that's not the case, nothing else really matters to them as long as they think a genocide is happening. Okay, maybe. I don't know.
You can talk about this without talking about the Holocaust, It's that.
Wait.
I interviewed.
Oh, so he comes back in saying that we need to talk about the Holocaust, and that makes him think that he's like a super pro IDF person, and so that this gets weird for a second. But
Somebody else here. Wait, real quick, I guess, what you guys think you want to chat?
I don't know if I want to like start getting like a.
Oh yeah, no, you're good.
You're all good. You're all good.
Sorry.
No, he's on your side. Trust me.
Oh,
He's
okay.
He's definitely on your side. Yeah.
Okay.
Real quick, if there was one thing that somebody could take from your guys' like sit-ins here or the demonstrations you're doing, what would be like one message you guys would want people to take? I guess.
I'm not sure if I'm in a position to say that, so take what I said with a grain of salt. I'll try anyway.
And it also just has to be, again, I'm not looking for like I want 41% of the West Bank. I'm just curious, like a general feeling or message you would want if somebody
to
your family or friends saw you, or if like internationally Biden saw like this demonstration, like what would you hope would be a message?
I say, look, in terms of the geopolitical environment, Biden has a direct connection and direct line through which he can influence Netanyahu's decisions in terms of in the several packages that have been sent to Israel, billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars, that need to be cut down. It needs to be regular. It needs to be conditioned in such a way that says, look, Netanyahu, what you're doing is abhorrent, and we can stop it at any time. As I think it was Bush Sr. did whenever there was calls of, like trepidations into the West Bank by, like far-right Zionist settlers. So, like, if you look at that and say, we have a concrete manner of approaching and influencing Netanyahu's decisions that goes directly through Biden and his cabinet, and we want him to stop funding what is tantamount to a genocide, as made evident at the very least if you take the ICJ, the International Criminal Court of Justice, I'll be saying now, ICJ, International Court of Justice. You take them at their word, we're talking about a potential genocide, at the very least. So you look at that and say, we need to stop that now. Right? That's the immediate thing that needs to change, and I think these protests are trying to signal that and tell Biden, look, we need to change that. Setting aside, pragmatic element, like he's going to lose to Trump, or he has high odds of losing to Trump if he keeps on funding this. But like from a moralistic perspective, from a geopolitical perspective, he needs to stop funding this genocide. And that's what this protest, that's what these campaigns are for.
Okay. Hey, listen, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot for your opinion. Hey, what's up? Do you guys want to chat?
Okay. I think at the end of this video, I think a couple people come up to me. Oh, fuck, I don't know if my friend was recording. I think she might have turned it off.
Record this. Wait. Wait. No.
Okay. A few people come up to me and they say, hey, we just want you to know you're not welcome here. None of these people want you here. None of these people like you. We're asking you to leave. We want you to go away. And then I think my friend wasn't recording. And then after they said that, I said this is a public area. I have as much right to be here as you do. So I'm going to continue to be here and talk to people as long as people are willing to talk to me. And I'm not going to leave. And I wanted footage of that. So I told her to record the people. What I think the thing got turned off. This is a 4-minute, 50-second video.
Record this. Wait.
Wait. Don't. They actively told you that, like, some people just came up and said that you're not welcome here. Don't
Yeah, but now they're talking. Well, they're talking and telling people not to talk to me.
So now it's a little annoying because now these people that came up and talked to me, now they're walking around talking to every single person saying, don't talk to this guy. He's like Hasbara making pro-Zionist propaganda, which is now it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm not talking to anybody else, which is kind of annoying, but.
Okay, well, sure. On paper, this is a public zone.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's
just
been
letting
classified.
you know, this guy does take his media, twist what you're saying, and publish it. So I just wanted to warn you.
Another girl comes up and starts saying this. Yeah, you can hear. Obviously, I think you hear that. Yeah.
Been
You know,
classified.
this guy does take his media, twist what you're saying, and publish it. So I just wanted to warn you. Be careful of what you say because it will be heard.
I literally post like full clips, full video things of everything, but okay.
Flip chimping, as it were.
Yeah.
Can I make it? Okay.
Yeah, what's up?
I think you can be genuine, right?
Yeah.
I don't think. Maybe I'm being too naive, but like I think you can be genuine at various times.
Try to be, yeah.
So like, I don't know. I think you have a big platform.
Why do you rewind everything 10 seconds after you pause? It triggers the fuck out of me. Because you autistic fuck. If I stop a video and start talking in the middle of the fucking sentence and then I replay, it's starting right there and you might not have even heard the beginning of the sentence. So I back up 5 or 10 seconds to like catch what I just paused to go back over. How, is that really that hard to understand?
Like, I don't know. I think you have a big platform, and like I'm not trying to chastise it, but like really look into this. I'm sure you have.
Looked
But
at it
like,
quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah. But like, I think you can make a pretty big influence, at least on the online, in the online domain. And so like, I don't know. Please, if you can, try to help make things different.
Would you say that you're as knowledgeable on the subject of Israel-Palestine as someone like Norman
Finkelstein?
Fuck, I shouldn't have been so confident here because I was trying to be like pretty chill. They brought up a trigger.
I remember
more
that.
so recently. Yes.
Really? You think so?
Fucking
Maybe.
enormous.
Actually, I can't tell. I don't know how much he.
Try to walk it back a little bit.
Books on it.
They're very
Fucking
bad books.
Norman.
Oh, yeah?
I've gone through them. Yes. Gaza, the Inquest into its Martyrdom is a very bad book. I had a debate with him.
How many books have you written on Israel-Palestine?
I've written many a tweet.
Okay. I don't think that's...
This is the only thing that I would ask of you. Okay, if you have this position. By the way, I'm a random fucking YouTuber guy, so if I ever tell you that I know more than like a guy who's been studying for 40 years, you should be skeptical. Okay, so I'm 100% agree with that. That's fine. Are you aware that I had a debate kind of with him?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you watch that entire debate?
Most of it, yeah. I think I fell asleep halfway.
This would be my question or my concern, I guess.
I'm sorry, I should say, I watched Hasan reacting to the debate.
Little different, but that's close enough. Yeah. My only question, my thing would be, is that genuinely my knowledge foundation in this area is it's going to be better than most normal people's. But for a scholar, I would imagine it's going to be pretty low. And I think I said it when I went to that debate that like obviously I'm the newcomer here at least between Norm and definitely Benny. Maybe.
So I try to do epistemic humility. Obviously, I'm a newcomer. I don't know as much as these people, of course.
You think that scholars are less knowledgeable?
I think he misunderstood me here, but I clarified.
Someone like a random like
No, I'm saying I'm coming in as a newcomer. Like all three of these guys for sure. Benny, probably Norm, and probably Colleen are going to know more than me. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, then I'm definitely coming with the lower knowledge level than these three guys. Sure. The only question I would have then is that if my knowledge was so poor, and if I know so little, why couldn't Norm just completely shut down any talking points they had?
because you didn't really have good talking points.
I had
about
lots
the
of good
game.
talking points.
I mean, a lot of it was just trying to shut down the conversation and redirect.
Absolutely not. They were direct questions that challenged a lot of the narrative that Norm kind of posits about the Arab-Palestinian conflict. The Arab-Israeli conflict. And I feel like he gets really wrong, but he didn't address any of those.
Look, man, I know that, like, you're a debater. You're a debater.
But that comes first. I'm not just trying to, like, debate the debate.
I mean,
Like, for instance, so in 48, right, when they were making their country, there was the partition.
no.
Okay, yeah,
I think I'm gonna side with. I'm gonna go with the grain here on this one and say.
So it was interesting that as soon as this is the only time I think in the entirety of me being here that I wanted to, well, let's dive into like a particular factual thing. And then the conversation, this is why before I wasn't trying to challenge anybody or anything, because I know that this happens when we start to push a little bit. Well, let's push in a little bit to the history or the facts. Then it's like, nope, I'm done. And then we're like completely, yeah. So this is why I avoided it up to this point.
It was great talking to you.
Okay.
I would ask that you please don't film anybody here without their consent.
Okay, I'm generally asking, yeah.
Generally, the key word there is generally.
Generally. Well, so far we've just done like you guys, yeah.
Yeah. So we consented to it.
Sure.
We,
Keep in mind
we
also,
actually asked that to
I want to be
happen.
really clear here. You guys are in a public area. The goal of a protest is to be seen. So like having people film you is kind of like part of the protest, right? Like it's kind of weird to do a public
there you go
protest.
again. There you go again. You're just twisting things around. And
I really don't like, I need to keep some things in mind. There's a lot of sayings that people use to just avoid like confronting something that's hard to confront, and this was one of them. Like, oh, you're debate broing or you're twisting things. It's like I didn't twist anything. What I just said was very, very, very clear. It's a public protest, and in public, part of it is being seen. That's the whole reason you protest in public areas. So people filming you in public areas should probably be expected. And it's like, how's a twist? Like, really?
you're just twisting things around. And using rhetoric.
What am I twisting?
I'm calling it off.
Okay, well, hey, listen, I appreciate the conversation. Yeah.
You don't.
Be sure to include that part.
Sure.
You're not like an Alan Dershowitz kind of guy, are you?
I've seen Dershowitz debate one time, and he wasn't very impressive to me. And I think he might believe some like genuinely wacky shit. I don't know
I think
enough
he's
about
kind
him.
of like a fraudster too. I mean, I take it with a grain of salt. If you say I think
I've only seen one debate with a Dershowitz guy. It might have been against Norman Finkelstein. I think he lost that debate. I don't know. I've seen limited things of the Dershowitz guy, and he just seems kind of weird to me. Or not, I shouldn't say weird. I'm sorry, just not very. I don't know how to say. I don't know. He wasn't impressive at all. His debate skills, his knowledge, his whatever. He just seemed like, I don't know. But maybe I haven't seen the right stuff. I'm not sure.
is as you know.
I think he's a total charlatan, and I hate him.
Okay, I would say like.
But Dershowitz, I wouldn't sign off on him either. I don't think I've seen him say. I feel like I watched him do one debate. It might have been with Finkelstein, and I was not impressed by the things that Dershowitz was
If
saying.
you're saying what you're saying about Finkelstein and you sell him the Dershowitz debate, then you would know Dershowitz is. He might be a fraudster.
A Foster?
Fraudster.
Oh, a
sorry.
fraudster? Oh, maybe, I don't know.
I won't.
I do appreciate the conversation.
Please try to make a difference in that.
I don't know if my friend stopped recording here. I think at this part, because he said, please try to make a difference. The guy was just like, I think he thought that I was kind of like harmful with some of the things I say, which I understand and I'm sympathetic towards that position. But then I think I go on to explain where I'm like, listen, I do think there's harm being caused. And I wanted to explain, like, I think protests like this where people advocate very strongly for a particular thing that they don't fully understand isn't healthy. It reminds me of Occupy Wall Street and Black Lives Matter, where there was a lot of energy and a lot of anger, but it wasn't directed at anything productive or constructive. So it just kind of dissipated and nothing came of it. But I don't know if any of that gets caught on camera. We just did 59. Dustin, I forgot to mention as well, what pushed me towards you more was when you got called out by Marquette. He attacked you, talked down to you, and you made amazing points and arguments, and he would just be an ass to you. It was a year ago. Wow, thanks, Ivan. Okay, so we'll do that. Okay, and then I've got 2 more.
Here's my frustration. Okay, this is my frustration.
Oh, okay, good. Oh yeah, she starts recording again. Okay.
Is that it feels like there's a lot that's happened, but it's such an easy conflict to pick like one side on, and then when you just pick one side, the other side is like obviously fucking terrible.
Well, there's a lot of people that are like anti-Zionist Jewish communities. There's a lot of organizations.
And there's Candace Owens exists. I mean, that doesn't mean anything.
Oh,
I mean, right?
Okay, but
like 90% of Jews support the existence of Israel.
Okay, but here, let's put it this way. Like, are you equating, which you would say Owens is a grifter, right?
Yeah, she's the Norm Finkelstein of the black people. Yes.
Okay. Would you look at people who are like in the Jewish for Peace, the organization Jewish for Peace, and say they're grifters too?
I wouldn't say grifters. I'd say self-haters.
I've seen a lot of cringe shit from that Jews from Peace people, but I don't really know enough about them to have like a very strong opinion. But
also, I don't know all of them. I've only seen like broad things of them at demonstrations. They might say, I don't like to make like concrete judgments, but I really dug into people. But it seems like there are people that I super disagree with.
Okay, so you think, just to clarify, you think that anti-Zionist Jews are self-hating?
Feels like it. From all the ones that I've encountered so far, yeah, it feels like it. There might be some out there that also like a lot of people won't even talk to right-leaning people, as you can see. So I'm not even right-leaning on this stuff. Fuck, or I guess like the kind of
Freudian slip on me.
Yeah, well, like the pro-Israeli side, I guess. It seems like a lot of people won't even chat. So there might be a lot of anti-Zionist Jews out there that have like really good rationale and aren't like self-hating, and I just don't run into any of them.
Even Orthodox. There's plenty of Orthodox Jews in America who are, you know,
Maybe, yeah.
How do you say in English? Like, clearly demarcating like an anti-Zionist position.
Sure.
So I mean, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is that like, obviously it's not black and white, and I know you would know that, but like, I think people who are advocating from the Palestinian position, at least from a at heart, are going to look at the state of affairs and say, we're not like here to cleanse the place of Jews.
Yeah, but it feels like if that happened, it feels like nobody would care. That's the biggest issue. I
don't think so.
I do.
I think
because when you look, if you look at all like the cleansing of Jews through history, or even in the Israeli-Palestinian place, right? For the Nakba, right? Yeah. There were about, I think it was over 700,000 Palestinians kind of got scooted out.
Should have quizzed every single person on what river and to what sea. No, because I didn't want to. It's obvious I'm looking for gotchas when I do that. I'm not trying to look for gotchas. Hey, this post makes a lot of claims. If a question with me, would you be interested in going over some of what he says on stream sometimes? 150 to 430-ish. 150 to, I don't know what the fuck this is. Maybe.
48 place, yeah, they got kicked out basically. But all the Jews that lived in the west of the Jordan River, they also got kicked out when Jordan took that land over, and anyone that lived in Gaza got kicked out too. Yeah, which and to be clear, for the camera, in case somebody helped me out on this, it was way more Palestinians than it was Jewish people. By I think like 2 orders of magnitude. I think it was like 5,000, like 700,000. So to be clear, but I'm just saying it feels like people only ever address like a single side of the issue, and when you only talk about one side, whether you're like the crazy fucking Zionist people, of whom I've talked to some, who will only talk about the bad things Palestinians do, or you talk to some pro-Palestinian people who only talk about bad things Israelis do. It's like,
obviously bad things happen to both sides. I just don't think you can look at that and say, and immediately say, oh, it's a wash, you know?
No, it's not that it's a wash. It's just that like the Palestinians have very good reasons for feeling like they're getting completely fucked over. That's undeniable. If you look at it, they do.
Would you say that they are?
For sure.
Okay.
In a lot of respects, yeah. Even people in the West Bank, yeah. But also the Jewish people have a lot of reasons to feel like they're getting over too.
No one denies the Holocaust.
Also, I hate this Holocaust talking point. Like, oh, of course, the Holocaust. Bro, there's more things that have happened in history than just the fucking Holocaust, you know?
Really, the Holocaust. I mean, there's like a lot of. So, for instance,
you can look beyond that. You know, millennia of really
even
just.
by Palestinians. One of the questions I asked you was, I was curious, why do you feel like the government has gone kind of like right in the past 2 decades?
Yeah.
Oh, so I bring up, he missed an obvious answer here, which was the Second Intifada.
The reason why is because of the Second Intifada, which was basically like open warfare.
Yes, but do you see that and say like that radicalization is a product of the repression that came about prior to that?
Yeah, but see, it's always like when the Jews do something bad, or I'm sorry, when the Palestinians do something bad, there's a good reason for it. But when the Jews do something bad, it's just because they're like being retaliatory. That's like in his mind, that's how it always works. And that's probably in the mind of everybody here, that's essentially how it works, yeah.
The first Intifada was fairly peaceful in that respect.
The first Intifada was fairly peaceful, yeah. And it led to the Oslo Accords, which didn't really do anything. And then after the failures at Camp David, you get the Second Intifada, which was way more violent. But I think that the frustration on the Jewish part is that it feels like there is no like negotiation that can be had with Palestinians. Because
Do
it
you
feels
think
like
that the sorry?
No, okay.
Do you think that the right wing coalition as it is anywhere near? I don't know the word in English, but like happily like willing to engage. I'm like. You know,
So here's,
not-
I understand what you're saying. Is
genuine.
Netanyahu going to be a partner for peace?
I don't think so. No, I'm.
So here,
I'm
this is what I would say.
convinced.
This is what I would say, okay? It feels like no, but democracies are very responsive to conditions on the ground, and I think that surprising things can happen that can make leaders that you would never expect come to the table for peace, come to the table for peace. So for instance, with like Egypt, the prime minister in Israel, peaceful Egypt, was Menachem Begin, who was like a leader in the Irgun, came from fucking Iran, which was like the terrorist division of the pre-IDF, the issue like Israeli fighting forces, right? So this is literally a terrorist leader, honestly, like in every sense of it. He would even agree with it, because even when he was back and forth with Carter, he would joke that like, I know these terrorist actions, I've done them, but he was able to come to the table. But the reason why he did that, the reason why he did that was because in Egypt, Sadat was a ruthless advocate for peace with Israel, and he would not be stopped. He went in front of the Israeli Knesset, he gave an impassioned speech, they could not ignore him. And I'm saying that when I'm saying that even staunch right-leaning Israeli leaders that are opposed to peace, when confronted with peaceful options, have to that buckle.
But even domestically, Netanyahu has been repressing democracy. So, like in terms of like his power grab with the courts, like you look at that and say,
I think
you don't think.
one thing I need to do more, I need to do this. Hold on. I wouldn't do it here, but I'll keep this in mind for that. I need to make people acknowledge what I've just said. I notice that happens a lot where they don't really, and they go on to the next question.
If he's domestically like pulling a Trump, he
tried to. I think that got shut down though, right? I don't think that actually made it through. But I don't like Netanyahu. I agree.
Right,
He's not a good person. But I think
you don't think he's a partner for peace, then?
As it is right now, no. But like the Palestinians are, of course. Like Abbas isn't. Arafat is. Sure. People are talking about I've never heard his name said. I've only read it. Is it Marguti?
Fuck, I need to get this guy's name, pronunciation correct.
Second Palestinian Intifada is one of the most popular Palestinians. Even right now, he's still in jail and in Israeli prison for his actions in the first and second Intifada. But none of these people are usually strong partners for peace with the Palestinian side. I agree that they're not from the Israeli side right now, but they have traditionally.
But there have been, I think, many efforts from the Palestinians to do so. And I think the fact of the matter is, setting aside that.
Barghouti.
If we get into that, it's going to be
Sure.
hours of discussion. Even if that is the case, if I can grant you that there's no way they get an agreement from the inside, doesn't that further give credence to the notion that there has to be an external coordination to stop this from happening in the way that it is?
I think people have felt that, but I don't think it has to necessarily be an external thing. So like, even the Oslo Accords. Thank you. Even the Oslo Accords started in secret.
So there've been like, the reason why it was getting loud is because there are like groups of people that sort of like block off the protests, I guess. Like groups of people that were chatting it because they were telling people not to talk to me. They were trying to like block us off or something. But then I think one of the protest leader people went up and started giving a speech about how there's like a Hasbara doing pro-Zionist guy here and nobody should talk to him. Whatever you do, don't talk to this guy. He'll blah, blah, blah. And she was making a speech basically about me, yeah.
So like.
Oh yeah, you can hear in the background actually. I was listening to my comment.
It is?
You can hear in the background.
Even if that is the case, if I can grant you that there's no way they get an agreement from the inside, doesn't that further give credence to the notion that there has to be an external coordination to stop this from happening in the way that it is?
I think people have felt that, but I don't think it has to necessarily be an external thing. So like, even the Oslo Accords. Thank you. Even the Oslo Accords started in secret in Norway when they were initially having the conversations between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Those conversations started in secret without a mediator because sometimes negotiating secrecy. So they don't necessarily need a mediator. But that's regardless. I think that the issue is that like if you had, this is what I'll say for like the Gaza Strip, okay? And I know it sounds bad, but like if Hamas had built, for instance, like bomb shelters for their people instead of just building like tunnels or investing in weapons or whatever else they do, if they had built bomb shelters for people that were never used for military stuff, were never shot on them, never used by Hamas for any sort of.
We're talking about a very dense.
Yeah, wait, I understand, but I'm saying if they had built that, and civilians were hiding in there, and Israel bombed it, the war would be over tomorrow because Israel would lose all international support.
Wait.
It would be completely over.
Okay, but there's a lot of reported war crimes that have been going on in the Gaza Strip by IDF forces.
But a lot of it is like
Mass graves.
we don't know the map. So the first report of Al Jazeera.
I don't want to like.
Yeah, sure. Yes, go.
I want to call it off because I don't want to.
No, you're fine. I appreciate the conversation. I do appreciate the conversation. Thanks a lot.
So, okay, one more video on this. So you hear the people now. So now it's like more like,
Okay.
this guy I bump into. This is 17 minutes. I think this is the last guy that I talked to. Yeah, okay. This is the final one. There's this. This is so silly. You know. Is there a reason why it's mostly women doing activism for the most batshit insane positions out there? I don't know why. Women just tend to be leaders more in like in political communal spaces, which is one of the reasons I made fun of Fuentes so much in some of the incel movements. No, this is Fuentes, not incel stuff, but if you're doing like political stuff and you're like super sexist and you're shutting out women, you're fucking yourself hardcore because women do so much of this like work on the ground for like real life political activist shit. Was that after or before they called people not to talk to you? Well, we're watching all of these sequentially, so.
Okay. Real quick, do you want to introduce yourself as much as you're comfortable with?
Yeah, sure. Las Garcia.
Why do you shake with your fingers open? I don't know, because I do, because I don't give a fuck. If you want like a pro tip for life, anybody that obsesses over like how you do a handshake and shit like that, usually more often than not, these are losers that have nothing in their life, and the only thing they can possibly show for it is like doing the right fucking procedures or moves for like a handshake or whatever fucking else. The reality is nobody gives a fuck. You're not going to become more successful or less successful because of how you shake your hand. It's going to be with the whatever particular gifts or talents you have to offer to the people that you're working with. Nobody's ever closed a business deal or not by how they shake somebody's fucking hand. If you want to see somebody obsessed with this more than anything else, look at fucking Donald Trump. Jesus.
I'm an aerospace engineering major.
I'll record him because he's recording us. Get him real quick. Get him. Oh, he took a picture.
Oh, there are a lot of people that keep walking up to like film me or take pictures or whatever, and I want my friend to like, get him back. Don't let these guys do it. Yeah, this guy did it. Yeah, he did it.
I'm an aerospace engineering major here at UT, sophomore. Shouldn't really care about politics because I'm a STEM major, but
Now everybody cares about politics.
and everyone cares about politics. I mean, watching you since like I was in like, I want to say like high school. I found out through you like Lily beat you in that kind of gang.
Okay, cool.
So I've known you for a while.
Are you like part of this like sit thing, or did you just like walk here and saw me? Or?
I was here on Wednesday. So,
Oh shit. Okay.
I think a lot of the news.
So Wednesday were the really big protests where people got arrested, I believe. It was the last big one, yeah.
What they reported on was pretty shitty. I saw basically who got arrested, who didn't. There was some people, of course there's gonna be some people violent, kind of like dipshits, like throwing shit at cops. Not a good thing. But I saw a lot of people saying like fuck you, you're not supposed to be on campus. We can cuss, right?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Okay. Don't be on campus. Like they didn't want DPS here, right?
Okay.
Governor Abbott said 6 months ago, everyone's like fucking shit posting him now because he said we're going to protect freedom of speech on campus. Now, whether or not I disagree with Palestinian protests or just agree with like Israel, I think that's fair because freedom of speech is obviously something I defend. I think even like banning people off of Twitter, Instagram, even though it's their right to do so as a company, I still think it's kind of shitty.
Sure. At the very least, in a public university, in a public space.
Exactly.
As long as there's not like an event being interfered with or people are being violent, yeah, you should probably be allowed to protest.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone that got arrested was on this lawn. One of the main contentions I have was they said that we were blocking pathways. Now, I think that was bullshit because no one was blocking pathways. The people that were blocking pathways were students from their classrooms looking in.
Yeah, I want to be like really cautious because I don't know the facts of the case.
No,
but I
you're-
heard that they tried to basically say that like this counted as a pathway and that was the justification they used to arrest people,
Yeah.
which sounds bullshit. If it's true, I don't know if that's actually.
Yeah, so basically, the police blocked off that entire area most of this area over here, and they made a circle and pushing people off campus. Okay. So every it's 10 minutes they put it back onto people. 5 seconds later they arrest you, kick your ass, and throw you to the ground.
Sure.
Right. Now one of the main things I saw was students saying "you" to a cop. The cop would get pissed and tell this dude.
Okay. Which, by the way, it is your American God-given right to tell a cop to f*** off. So
I agree.
absolutely have the right.
I agree, and especially on our campus. Now, one of the things I hate our president for is he told us we had freedom of speech. There's multiple videos about UT published on their YouTube channel.
To clarify, your president, you're talking about Jay
Hartzell.
yeah. Okay.
Hartzell, UT published a video saying we support freedom of speech on open campus areas. I'm pretty sure this is open.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was open grass, open lawn areas. And they disagreed with that entirely.
Yep.
Now, one of the main arguments I heard from the people, organization here, was...
Are you mic'd up? I know I didn't bring any of my mic equipment or any of my actual recording equipment. I have portable mics for this. Yes, thank you for your valuable input. I've never thought about that. I have it. I didn't know I was going to do any of this when I got there. I was either flying or it was after I landed. I'd heard there were big protests. Like, oh shit, I should go talk to people.
We're going to set up tents, which they declined at first. Okay? Afterwards, Hartzell said, hey, we're not gonna let you guys, or we're not gonna let you guys set up tents, but if you guys want to protest, you can protest. They resubmitted their application to do a peaceful protest on campus, and Hartzell said go f*** yourself. Obviously, the governor doesn't like I think one of the main contentions the governor said was anything that is pro-Palestinian is automatically anti-Semitic. I think we can both disagree on that. That doesn't mean it, right? Like, you don't.
I would actually go even stronger. Even if it was anti-Semitic,
you're still,
yeah. This is the United States. You don't have hate speech laws here. There are no hate speech laws here. They can have you can have Nazis, anti-Semitic, whatever the f- you want. You should be able to have it here.
I agree. I love arguing with anti-trans people. I love arguing with a bunch of people on campus because I think it's fun to do so.
Yeah.
I think it's everyone's First Amendment right to do so, especially it's a public campus. It's a public university. We should be
a lot of
allowed
money
to
from
do
the
so.
state. Yeah.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
I think that my main issue was that everyone was villainizing all these.
It's not like you're against the police shutting down these protests. If you're just protesting on a college campus, yeah, you shouldn't. You have the right to do that. If you're blocking classes or attacking people, getting violent or whatever, then you don't have the right to do that. I'm talking about public campuses, by the way. For private campuses, a whole other thing. But yeah, you should. I mean, obviously, you should have the right to protest. Obviously, right?
Protesters, but I'm not going to say who got arrested. But some people close to me did get arrested for saying "you" to a cop. Sure. Yeah, that was bullshit to me, regardless of the affiliation they had or personal views that's been going on. I just think the level of police intervention was completely disrespectful, only because we've had protests in the past. Our professors were talking about it, that during the Vietnam War, people protested on campus. They didn't have fear of being arrested. A lot of our professors were pretty pissed, including a lot of professors in the engineering department. So I think a lot of people on campus disagree with the fact that they're shutting down free speech. And in my opinion, I think that's kind of bullshit, what they're doing. Whether or not I'm pro-Israel or pro-Palestine, I agree with the sentiment that we should just stop a level of violence in Gaza, right? Maybe I agree that Israel does have a right to stop all terrorism, right? Terrorism is not something good.
But it's always going to be hard to make 20, 30,000 deaths of a population that clearly can't defend itself feel good to any group of people. Which is, good, yeah.
And I think that's the main sentiment that these people are justifying. Hey, we don't, well, I don't know if they, I'm not speaking on behalf of
Wait, hold on 1 second.
I don't know if she's talking about right now. I'm not sure.
I can do it.
Oh, there we go.
I just want people to be careful and know that there is a risk of being identifiable if you are being.
This lady really doesn't like me. She's telling everybody to be careful. I'm a Zionist. We're doing our Hasbro propaganda, and there we go. Okay.
That's a little weird, but that statement was a little weird. What'd you say? Imagine we could all do if we were all wearing black.
That's kind of weird, but okay.
Yeah.
Let's go. I left all my guns at home, so I'm safe to get my ass ripped.
Actually,
Okay.
you're legally allowed to open carry on campus. I can still carry it. Whatever the case.
Doesn't help though. My firearms are in Florida, so. No, okay. So earlier when you approached me, you mentioned that you were a fan of mine. You didn't think I'm grifting. Thank you. You don't think I'm paid by anybody. But
I didn't hear what she said. She said, imagine if we were all wearing black, what we could do. Or imagine if we were all wearing black, what we could get away with. It was something weird like that.
Disagreed with probably a lot of my recent stuff relating to this conflict, though.
Okay, at first I agreed. At first I was like, I'm just having a lot of like, I guess turmoil on the whole aspect because I've heard both sides. Sure. My boss is Jewish.
Okay.
I've heard his sentiment about it. I understand exactly where he's coming from. It's your people who are getting killed. And the other side, I think there's a lot of nuance to the argument.
Okay.
Like, for this side, obviously, like, oppression is never good, occupation is never good. For them, it's been years of occupation. I've been watching some of your I was gonna do like a deep dive, just like watch some of your views on it, because I didn't know exactly your entire point of view. I just know that you're leaning more towards it. Because I saw the Lex Friedman debate.
Yeah.
You guys were just yelling at Benny Morris. Or, sorry, Benny Westwood.
Norm was screaming at me.
Norm was screaming at you the whole time. Yeah, it was a shit show. But I'm having a lot of internal only because I agree that Israel has a right to war. Not even war, but this conflict towards this group. But I disagree with the fact that they're using this as an excuse to, in a sense, take over Gaza and level it to the ground.
Sure. There's an international law of armed conflict. There's two terms. You've got jus in bello and jus ad bellum. And one has to do, jus in bello is your conduct in war, and jus ad bellum is the conduct outside of war. Or, I'm sorry, it's your cause for war, essentially. I would hope that most reasonable people would agree that Israel had a good cause for war on October 7th, but obviously the conduct in war is up for a lot of...
He's using you to cut agitprop. Don't let him. He literally is.
So, okay, we're finishing this guy's character arc, okay? So, this guy in the background people have been like talking to him, and I've seen him talking to people, and now he's come back again, and yeah.
Conduct outside of war, or I'm sorry, it's your cause for war, essentially. I would hope that most reasonable people would agree that Israel had a good cause for war on October 7th, but obviously the conduct in war is up for a lot of...
He's using you to cut agitprop. Don't let him. He literally is.
I'm posting the full interview. Why would you think this? You got propagandized so quickly. You see everything on my channel. I'm pretty open about everything I do.
I'm telling you, I'm agreeing to do it. Okay.
You do speak for all of us, by the way.
So I don't know if my friend turns to the camera, but it's the same guy from the first interview. And now he's like, you're being used for agitprop, bro. And when you speak for all of us. So clearly he's been told this by the other people at the protest now that he shouldn't have talked to me and it was a big mistake. And now he's trying to tell other people not to.
I can stay here for as long as I want. I have to leave at 6 o'clock anyway.
You speak for all of us now.
Oh, and then I think another girl comes up and she's like, oh, like, we want you to leave or something. And I think I say, no, I'm not going to fuck.
You see everything on my channel. I'm pretty open about everything I do.
I'm telling you, I'm agreeing to do it.
Okay. You do speak for all of us, by the way.
I can stay here for as long as I want. I have to leave at 6 o'clock anyway.
You speak for all of us, and I'm guilty of it too.
I'm not speaking for all
You're
of
not guilty of anything.
Damn. I understand, but I'm not speaking for all
Wait,
of
isn't the whole point of a protest to have people like watch your stuff and see? You can record it. That's good.
I think as long as you're bringing respectful, I think I just have I respect you guys for being here. I respect Tennessee here. I respect everyone at the public campus. I know.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone's getting
Yeah, that's fine. It's all good. The conduct in war, obviously.
Oh, wait, did we see the person? Oh, yeah. She talks to a lot of people that I talk to. She's been going around doing work.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. It's all good. The conduct in war, obviously, regardless of which side you're on, is tragic, right? And the fact that so many people, even if half of them were militants, which is probably a dramatic assumption, even if half were, that's still 50,000 Israelis dead. That's still, who knows how many buildings destroyed. That's still how many people are hungry right now that aren't able to get food, and where the humanitarian stuff is. Yes, like all of that is undoubtedly tragic for sure. Yeah. So I agree with that.
There's just a lot of I think there's just a lot of nuance because you can't really just see this work. I think you can say that one has a cause for war, conduct in war is so much. Like that's like my main issue.
Sure.
And a lot of like the sentiment here on campus is that they want to stop the genocide, not really that Israel's completely wrong. Although there is some bad actors. I heard something about the leader or one of the head leaders of the Palestinian organization here saying that the actions on October 7th were brave.
Sure.
I disagree with that entirely.
I'm curious, real quick, do you say how old you are? Can I ask?
Yeah, I'm 20. Yeah, 20.
Do you remember, this is fuck me, have you ever heard of Occupy Wall Street?
Occupy Wall Street.
I shouldn't be asking college kids this.
this might have been like
Because this is like 2007, and these guys are gonna be like,
2008, was it? Okay, never mind.
I was like 5 at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were, yeah. You remember BLM, right?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. One of the things that, and I might be screaming into the abyss here, which I understand. One thing that frustrates me is when there's a lot of energy for protests and stuff, but I feel like they're not directed in like in a healthy,
Constructive. I agree.
yeah, because it's like, what is the solution? Yeah.
Right.
So for BLM, a huge problem was like, okay, well, what are we going to do? And everyone's like, defund the police. Like, it's probably not going to happen. And it's probably not going to help anything. So it feels frustrating. So the energy. And when I see like the Israeli-Palestinian thing, this is a thing where international pressure, I think, has a huge impact on how both sides feel and how far they can go. But it feels like the energy is directed at like, what does stop the genocide mean? What does stop apartheid mean? What does a one-state solution mean?
I think a lot of the language, there's a lot of differences in language. Like when someone means apartheid, to them it means liberation. To other people it means genocide.
Yeah, which is bad.
Which is bad, yeah.
Because we don't know when somebody's like from the river to the sea. Also, what they
You're talking about killing all the Israelites, or you're talking about you want to free every hostage.
Sure. Or is it like a one state where Jewish people are minority or whatever? Yeah, I think that's my biggest frustration. And I guess when I came here today, I just kind of wanted to chat with people. I think I'm just trying to like kind of get an idea where people are at. I thought about like mining like a lot of like gotcha questions, like do you know what happened in 1967? Do you know what happened to Syria? But I'm not like as interested. I'm just kind of curious, like why do you think people are upset in the Middle East? Why do you think they're fighting? Why whatever? Just to get kind of like a baseline of knowledge. And so far, I haven't talked to too many people, but it feels like the conversation here is the same as the international conversation, where people have one side of the facts and they're true. But then they're missing like the whole other side, and like this is so much different than me.
I just think they are. I guess they're doing like the Republican and liberal thing, which is like we want to villainize every Republican. They want to Republicans villainize every liberal and assume that we just want to destroy the United States, vice versa.
Yeah.
They're doing the same thing in the Middle East, which is like even here on campus, which is really stupid. Like, in my opinion, I think right now they're being a little disrespectful. The fact that they're saying get the fuck off the campus, but half the people here don't even go here.
that's something true too. He's like, they're being disrespectful by telling you to get off the campus when half the people at these protests probably aren't even from the school. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think, oh fuck, was it Columbia or was it? It might have been Columbia. There was a series of arrests recently where I think half the students, it might have been UT. I think it was Columbia where half the students were arrested, half the people arrested weren't even part of the.
Yeah. Here in UT as well. Okay. And I know a lot of inside information only because I just know what happens.
Sure.
I was at the jail.
Also, just to be clear, because you don't have to say anything.
No, I agree. That's, I'm not doxing anyone. I'm not saying anything. There was way more than 50 people arrested. It was over 100 arrested. UT's been lying about them because they want to cover it up. Because, in my opinion, President Hartzell.
Jesus Christ, the tornado is coming.
Governor Abbott basically has his hand on Hartzell's ass and is puppeteering this guy. Like, I agree 100%. Like, obviously, you're going to listen to your state governor that donates to the school and is quite literally funding your school. I just think, like, one thing, the reason why I came to this school is because I thought it was the best public university in Texas, and I thought, in my opinion, it was something where you can express your ideas on. What happened on Wednesday was the exact opposite of that. I think that was kind of fucking bullshit. I was there next to multiple people getting arrested. People were behind barricades, and cops would just grab people over the bikes because they said, fuck you, dude. You're a piece of shit, and you get arrested. And people in Alexandria are facing expulsion right now, which, in my opinion, is...
Yeah, I didn't hear the expulsion, but I did read today that I think the president said that if you were arrested...
Oh, you're not allowed to go back to campus?
I think they were saying they're not allowed to come back to campus. I don't know if it was indefinitely or for a year or what.
So basically what happened was, if you were arrested, you're allowed to come back to campus, but then also they redacted that because everyone was getting pissed. So now you're allowed to finish your finals. But you don't know what's going to happen to you after you get disciplined because they want the summer to come so it'll blow over.
Yeah.
And they want to fuck over students who are here because it's their campus. Like, regardless of I understand, like, people getting banned off of the campus if they don't belong. But these are students on their campus. You cannot be trespassing on your campus.
Yeah.
Like, ultimately, you're not in a building. You're on your public university land that you pay for and you pay tuition for.
Yeah.
So a lot of the Republicans online are saying, like, oh yeah, fuck these people. Like, they deserve here.
People only like free speech when it's for their side.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like, motherfucker, I pay to be here.
Yeah.
Like, half these fucking cops don't pay to be here. They're paying taxes, but I'm paying the tuition to be here. And I can't even use my fucking lawn to express my opinion. That's what pisses me off, frankly. And I think, like, a lot of the sentiment on both sides is like, oh, censorship is okay only from my side, which I disagree on entirely.
Yeah. It seems to be the case for a lot of the United States.
Right. Like,
because a lot of Republicans wanted all the BLM people arrested, probably a lot of these protesters arrested, and then on the left, everybody was, you know, fuck,
Okay, we got it. We agree with everybody. Good one.
Okay,
That's a different thing.
Okay,
Cut that
no,
out, August.
but Jansen, okay.
But for like the people, for
yeah.
instance, the peaceful protesters outside, the ones that didn't go in or whatever, none of those guys shouldn't have been arrested.
Exactly.
Yeah, you defend your right to protest.
It's different because no one stormed the goddamn Capitol.
True, yeah,
People are out here talking to cops.
Yeah.
Right? No, it's punching cops. People talk shit and then a cop punches them in the face. Right? Like that's the kind of shit that really pisses me off. And I just want to hear your. I guess I kind of understand your aspect now. Which
I'm a
is
super big free speech guy, so I'm always going to support it. As long as I think the restriction here has to be like a reasonable time, place. It can't be like disruptive. Like if they plan like if there's like a graduation event planned here,
Right, you can't be-
yeah,
but,
and I don't think you can protest at like 2 a.m. if it's like loud or massive. But for the most part, as long as you're within like your reasonable bounds, you absolutely should be able to be as anti-Semitic, as racist, whatever the fuck you want. It's your it's the United States.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that people are not talking about, as lawmakers and like politicians are not talking about, is the fact that our university's president has, in my opinion, tried to protect this free speech, especially since there's multiple statements. A lot of people are posting.
I don't know if anything else interesting happens here. 2 minutes.
Videos of UT saying we support free speech on all open areas of campus, and they're obviously not listening because of all the backlash. And to me, it's like one of the main arguments the president said was you can't disrupt this area because there's a building here. These are all
I heard that they use this, like, this is actually a walkway. That was one of the arguments apparently they used, but I guess that was one reason why they threw out a lot of the arrests. I don't know 100% just whatever your view
Yeah,
says.
which is bullshit. I mean, they literally didn't say disperse. A lot of our warnings on our phones were please avoid the area. So if you're asking us to avoid the area, sure. You're not asking us, you're not allowed to be here.
Which feels like a different thing than a lawful order to disperse
Exactly.
as well, right?
They finally said disperse after they arrested like 50 people, which is like, how can you tell those people they're trespassing on their own place after not telling them that they're not allowed to be there?
Yeah.
Like, come on. To me, it's kind of stupid. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I don't want to disrupt you from like asking other people questions.
No, you're good. Any final? So you said you at the protest on Wednesday?
That was.
Do you, if there was like one thing that the world or Biden or a friend or family member could see like these protests, what would be like a thing you would want them to take away from it?
I think a couple of bad actors from both sides does not generalize the protest. Just like in BLM, there was a couple of negative violent protests, and there was a lot of other protests that should be peaceful and okay. That day, from what I saw, and I was there the majority of the time, people were peaceful. I believe there was only 2 people arrested for violence. A lot of the students here paid to be here, so the students that were arrested shouldn't be expelled because it's their freedom of speech to do so. They paid tuition, they deserve to be on this lawn. And for years we've all protested. It should be the same now. That's fine.
Cute.
Thanks a lot, man. Nice talking to you, Steven.
Before we left, one thing that I tried to walk back and get a shot of because it was so perfect, but it was also like really sad, but it would have made for like a really good character arc. That the one kid who came back and tried to say like, hey, like he's doing agitprop, don't trust him. The guy that gave me that first interview. For the rest of the time, me and my friend were there looking at other people to interview. He was just like sitting completely alone in like the middle of the group. Like nobody was talking with him. He was just sitting there kind of like on his phone. And I think he got chewed out like hardcore by the protester organizers. And that's why he was like working overtime to try to get people not to chat with me now. But I was like, Jesus Christ. But it's funny because it was like, I feel like in real time it demonstrated that social, like the social push for people to have certain beliefs, and that the particular system of beliefs that you have isn't really rooted in any kind of logical feeling, but rather like the social cohesion of you and your group around you, basically. And I thought that that thing of him just sitting there all alone, like on his phone for like 30 minutes afterwards, was just like Jesus. I was wondering the other day if there are any interview-ish vids with people like these brown shirt protester types after a few years of maturing that are able to reflect. An example would be the Beijing Red Guards in the mid-'60s that look back. I don't know. I'm sure there are lots of them where they're like, yeah, we were kind of cringe. Again, I don't think there's anything bad with people protesting as kids and being a little bit cringe. I think that's fine. It's just that they're given so much weight, a disproportionate amount of weight. Like people are treating these people like very, very serious adults rather than like kids that are protesting at college campuses, which is, I think, a problem, yeah. But I talked to a few other people who didn't want to talk on camera. There's like a civil rights lawyer guy who showed up. That was kind of interesting. But somebody said, go to a minute 50 and listen to this? What the fuck is this?
And what brought anyone to Afghanistan? And to do that, we need to go back to the 70s when Afghanistan was really cool.
I'm not going to know Afghanistan history as well. Why? I don't know why.
The only issue with Afghanistan was that it was a socialist country aligned with the Soviet Union. So the CIA took it upon themselves to turn the country upside down. They launched Operation Cyclone, the largest covert operation in CIA history. It pretty much involved flooding every right-wing Islamic extremist in the country with money and weapons. Literally, if you were a murderous incel in Afghanistan in the 70s, the CIA was there to make you a millionaire. Like Gulbuddin Hekmatyar, for example. Now, this guy's a real piece of shit.
I don't know enough to counter this. My understanding is both sides were very invested in Afghanistan, that the Soviets would fund their bad guys and the US would fund our bad guys, and they would all go fighting with each other. But I don't believe that there was could be wrong, but I don't think in the 70s, I don't think there was a genuinely popular socialist government that had the support of all the people. I think it was like a funded, propped up, like Soviet style government. And then like the US funded the other opposition of it. But I don't know enough. I can't say that with any level of confidence. So, yeah. This guy's literally a tank. If he's literally a tank, then he's for sure wrong about everything, yeah. This guy's a straight up North Korea supporter. Okay, based. Destiny. So Hasan has pretty much his own bubble on Twitch poll where he's creating brain rot for political discourse in real life. The DG or other people associated with you can't interact with because we get banned if we cite your name and other Twitch while he is posting about you every day. So we have to witness in real time young people not having a political alternative that isn't as brain rotting as Hasan. What do we do except sit here like you and pray that we get unbanned from Twitch? I don't know. It is actually, I do think it's a significant problem, but unfortunately, I don't think I can take up that mantle because coming from me, it's just going to sound like I'm being salty. So there's nothing really I can say. It is pretty sad though that Twitch is the second largest streaming platform. I don't know if you count YouTube or not. Streaming platform on the internet, and basically like a tanky has exclusive run of the entire platform. Like unanimously, there is no political opposition to a tanky that runs like all of politics, and then all the people below him filter down to their stupid tanky takes, like Denims and Central Committee, Mike from PA. And then he's also like infecting all of the other normie Twitch streamers like Caroline and OTK and OTV, I guess, and everybody else with his dog shit political opinions. And there's zero pushback on any of it. But yeah, I don't know. That's pretty shitty. Yeah.